Rebuilding life in your 40s. Is 40 the new beginning or is it the decline? That's the question that I want to answer today. And what I am noticing both in conversation with other women my age, what I'm seeing from society is that there's this pressure that by 40, you should have had to check all of these boxes off to, complete the life goals and then be grateful for where you're at. But that is not where I'm seeing women be. And that's definitely not where I am. So I want to share with you today I want to give you some advice and I want to normalize um, being okay with reinventing yourself at 40 versus feeling like you're just going downhill from there. You know what I mean? Because that is so not true. I mean, I don't even look 40. So that in and of itself should encourage you because I'm going to take a guess you don't either. Okay. So my name is Brianna. I am a 20 plus year licensed clinical psychotherapist, but I am also so much more than that. I am a multifaceted mentor who works with 6 and 7 figure CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners to help bridge the gap between their professional success and the places in their personal life where they're stuck. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a stylist, and I'm actually dressed today, y'all. Look at this. Took my little 2-year-old daughter out on a little date, and we had a fun time. So I'm not in my pajamas or a hooded sweatshirt because it's also not freezing outside here in Charlotte. We had a nice day today. I've gotten to bring my plants out into our sunroom finally, and they are happy. And I'm happy too because now the house doesn't feel like so much of a jungle. But I want to talk about this sense of decline and fear that women have when they hit 40 that does not belong in the level of possibility that women typically carry at this age. And what I'm noticing is in my group of women, I would say 90% of them are close to my age, and they are all kind of in the same boat as I am, which is like something needs to change in this season of life. Like I am not fulfilled in what I'm doing. I want to start a whole new career over. I'm burnt out from what I have been doing. I expect more out of my life than what I'm currently experiencing, and I also deserve it. And they're hungry. Like we're all very hungry to not only be in a place career wise that fulfills who we are now, but also allows us to give of our like purpose and our gift in a more um, influential, what's another word, like legacy kind of way. Like it feels so much deeper than just like I want to get a new job. Like there's this deep feeling that exists inside of it. And so women are starting to feel stagnant around this age because for most of us, all of the boxes have been checked. And for those of you like me whose boxes were not checked by 40, there's still a sense of like, okay, well, there's this quiet pressure like you made it this far. You should be grateful and you should have figured it out. Like there's this pressure of like you should have figured it out. So now you just have to like chew, you have to swallow what you've been chewing, you know? Um, and I truly believe that we are not stuck. We are truly underusing this amazing gift, talent, experience, wisdom. Um, we're ready to use more of it. So I have been noticing, and in my life, I had been noticing that as I got closer to 40, some things started to happen, and I had a couple of shifts. The world, I felt like, stopped asking what I was building and kind of looked at me as if I should be settled by now. Like there was something wrong with me. That's how I felt. I don't know if that was true or not, but that's just how I felt. I was seeing everybody else my age going on family vacations and like having these fun school things with their children. And I I think that I recognize that while I had wanted to be at a certain place by 40, I didn't get there. And I mean, so much so that like the last guy that I really dated seriously before I got married, um he like we were trying to have a kid together. That's a whole new episode. I have mentioned him multiple times because like I can't wrap my brain around how to tell this story because like y'all are going to need like popcorn and wine and candy. It's a whole thing. So when that ended and the idea of what I thought was going to happen with that relationship didn't work, which I was very grateful for, I recognized that I was focusing on the wrong thing. And I needed to make peace with the things that I desire in my life will happen, but I have to start forcing them. And, you know, some women are like me. They're in a boat where they're single and unmarried at 40. Other women are married. Other women are married with children. But whatever expectation that you had that you were not, are not at, at 40, I just want to remind you that you don't have to force it to happen. There is a timeline for everything. And had I, you know, married somebody with toddlers or had I had a baby, I don't think that I would have been as emotionally mature as I am now. And I obviously, all parents mess up their kids a little bit. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm a therapist, I see it. But at the end of the day, like I am grateful for this timing. None of what happened, even with me falling on the floor sobbing, wishing it would be different, I'm so glad it wasn't. And so I think that women have this experience in their 20s where y'all are making a lot of decisions. That's all we're doing. We're just making decisions all the time. We're making decisions and we're making decisions and we're making decisions and we're trying to enjoy life. Making decisions, trying to enjoy life. And then the 30s hit and we start to focus on how those decisions are going to impact our future, right? And so in our 20s, we make a whole bunch of mistakes. And then our 30s, we try to live life not repeating the mistakes, but having a hard time focusing on the goals because like that's a negative balance. Like I don't want to keep making the same mistakes, but I also want to focus on my future. And so like these two things like continually like cross each other off. So I feel like that's when women start to get like up into their 40s when they're starting to focus, and then they lose sight of like what they have to let go of or who you have to become in order to get into this next phase of life. And that was me. Like I was so focused on not experiencing something and also focused on my vision that I lost sight of myself. And so I like lost who I was. And, you know, we talked about this in my last episode. And so then when women in their 30s are in that strange thing of like, I can't make mistakes, but I have to get this by this time, then what happens is there's no space, there's no room left for what's possible because now you're forcing everything to happen based on your goals. I think that what I notice most from women is once the boxes are checked, especially in your 20s and 30s, you stop thinking bigger. You stop thinking beyond what you've already envisioned for yourself because you didn't see any further than that beforehand. And so now there's no space for that to happen because you're overwhelmed, because you're wearing multiple hats, you're in survival mode, and you've lost a sense of who you are. And so when we reinvent ourselves, especially in our 40s, here is an opportunity to get out of survival mode, to look beyond what we see and what we think is even possible, and we start to redefine who we are with all of these amazing experiences and levels of wisdom that we have. So there is truly no expiration date here. And that is something that I want to remind you of, especially if you're reinventing yourself at 40. There's no expiration date. There's no expiration date for motherhood. I became a mother at 43. I know women who've had babies at 47. Times have changed. And while I respect your timeline, I want you to sit back and ask yourself, if I gave myself one more year, if I gave myself 2 more years to be patient for this, who could I become? What characteristics in me could be strengthened? And what part of my integrity can be redefined so that I am even more bold, more powerful, more like carrying more endurance so that I can handle whatever it is I'm about to get. Divorce does not equal permanent loneliness. So for those of you who are just beginning your divorce, like I'm working with a woman right now in her 60s, and her biggest fear is like, number one is like, I don't know if I can ever be in a relationship again, but like I never expected to be alone at this age. That's scary. That is very scary. And it is not going to define, nor does it predict that you will be lonely or alone the rest of your life. And what I learned through my process that I would have enjoyed more fully at the beginning was taking that sense of loneliness, taking that time to not be in something and allow it to simmer me and grow me. But instead, I was so afraid. And like, I really encourage you, if you are in the process of divorce or going through divorce, to really sit with how you can find the pleasure in the lonely parts of your day, because they are so valuable and important. And when I tell you this, like, I wish that I would have taken better advantage of those, because I know it would have helped me to not suffer for like 8 long years of suffering, because I suffered for like 8 years in my own dumb decisions. The other piece of this is that 40 is not a deadline. Like, it's not the expiration date of like having to be established. Where in the book of life, like, who decided that 40 meant you have to be established? That's just a society thing, because that's what you're seeing. What I'm loving is we are in an era where more women are moving slower to do things and are not regretting that pace, whether they get something or not. So I'm seeing a level of strength in women that goes beyond what probably was happening in the last 10 years. But even so, there's still a pressure to feel established. And I want to encourage you to allow yourself to feel like at 40 there is a child within you, your childlike part of you is ready to like come online and start to build and grow again, because she has so much more inside of her to unlock and unleash, that like your adult self has kind of like shrunk and played small and told her to be quiet. And 40 is the time to let her out, because you're letting out this very creative, playful aspect of yourself while you have all of the wisdom you've gained over the last 40 years, all of the life experience you've gained over the last 4 years, all of the increased emotional intelligence you have gained over the last 40 years. So, what a beautiful gift to have all of these skills and talents and honed in on your gifts and turn those into a new purpose, a new way to play, a new way to use your reinvent yourself. um I know that I had to reject this idea that reinventing yourself at 40 meant that you had this unstable life. When I had told somebody, like, oh, yeah, I've moved like, I don't know, 8 times since I moved out to South Carolina. So it's like I've moved pretty much once to twice a year for the last 8 years. And it was like, oh, I didn't know that was like a godly thing to do, move every year. Like, well, why is that a but that's because of what society says. Like, you're 40, you should own a home, you should have a family, you should, be making like multiple six figures, and like at least have a, this or have that, like whatever it is, your kids, and I don't believe that's true. And maybe I'm blowing smoke up my own butt, I don't know, but I have believed this, and it has given me peace. And I'm seeing a lot of women reinventing themselves around the 40 to 50 mark, and even 60 mark, and they have no peace because they're still trying to reinvent themselves based on some sort of standard or expectation. So, rejecting the idea that 40 means you've arrived, because I truly feel like it is not that 40 is when you've arrived. I feel like 40 is when you have woken up. Like you are up and you have half a life left to live. And there is no way that you're going to take advantage of it, minimize it, or like take small baby steps in this part of life. There's no way. You just can't, because we only got 40 years left if you really think about it. So I think that when I turned 40, what I loved, and I know that every woman around this age, okay, I shouldn't say every, but I'm going to say majority, y'all know this too. We get to this place where we just do not give a crap. And I loved who I became when I hit like the 40, 41 mark. It was like I didn't need to perform anymore. I was going to say what was true. I was going to set boundaries. I was going to call the crap out when it happened. And I wasn't going to tolerate chaos like I used to. There was no way I was going to live the second half of life the way that I did the first half. And I loved how I shifted into just what for me felt like such a more grounded, powerful woman. Did I still make some mistakes? Yes. Did I have some habits that I still needed to break? Of course. But at the end of the day, I felt proud of who I was becoming when I hit 40, because I was starting to feel so much more freedom. Like I felt this thing unlock in me. I remember when I was doing therapy back in Ventura, California. I was working in this beautiful Victorian home right on the beach. And Janet was the woman across from me who was a therapist in her 60s. And when I got divorced, she and I went to lunch one day, and she said to me, Brianna, I wish that I could take my 60-year-old head and put it on your 30, whatever I was, 33, 34-year-old body, because you would see this whole experience so differently with what I know. I now understand how powerful that statement was. And I know exactly what she means, because when I'm working with 20 and early 30-year-old clients, I'd say the same thing. I wish I could take what I know about your circumstance based on my age and wisdom and put it on your head so that you could see what's going on from a completely wiser, like future forward position, because you will see that what you're going through isn't as bad as it feels. And so I love that, because she like is always in my head when I go through little things, because she's just like, honey, if I could just take my head and put it on your neck, like you would see that this isn't that big of a deal. And it took me a while to understand what she meant, but now I get it. I totally get it. I think that when you get into your 40s and you are, redefining and reinventing yourself, I truly don't believe that it's reckless. I don't think that it's you being confused. I don't think that you are just out here on like what's called like a midlife crisis. I don't believe that's what it is. I believe we get to this age and we get really clear on things that we had maybe either put aside or that we had shrunk or muted because we were told to or because we felt like we had to. I think that our discernment gets much more narrow and like sharp, and I believe that the level of self-trust that we begin to develop at this age is unstoppable. And so then our mind starts to believe these crazy wild things that the people around us that like to live the comfortable life, which is fine, no judgment, that don't really think there is a necessary need for growth or change, or that they can't use, these other skills and talents, that's fine. But if you're here, if you're on this channel with me, then you are one of the ones that is constantly looking at where you can not only reinvent yourself, but where you can do more or do different in order to not only challenge yourself, but to encourage other people to do the same thing. When I hit 40, there were two things that really improved for me, that I think I had, obviously not, I think I knew I had the wrong mindset of the first, 20 years or so. And one was my health. When you hit 40, I believe this is where, especially, we know that our health is going to eventually decline. And so we take our health more seriously. And so obviously developed a chronic illness. So that was a whole thing in and of itself, that I had to just start um, learning my body and doing things differently with it. But I just started to look in the mirror and love my body. Like, I was grateful for the body I had. I stopped judging it. I stopped looking at it thinking like, ew, this is too fat, or this is too this, or this is too that, or blah, 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 blah. It didn't matter. Like, I loved how I saw my body. And it really hasn't changed that much in the last, let's say, I don't know, 5, 6 years, 5 years. It's still the same, but something about me just started to love myself more. And that feels so good. Like, that is such a motivator in and of itself. Um, I I I made just like a lot more healthier choices. I got to a point where, like, alcohol used to be a thing that was like in my daily. Now it's like rare. Just things like that. Like, a lot of different healthy choices. The way I eat, the way I look at food, the way I purchase food. It just changed because I want to make sure that as I'm reinventing myself in my career and as a mom and as a wife, that I have a body that's able and capable of carrying me to where I'm going next, because I don't want that to be the thing that stops me. The second piece of this was the way that I navigated relationships. And I was obviously choosing relationships from a very wounded and brokenhearted place, a desperate place, an insecure place. And what I saw when I turned 40 was, I stopped, again, like, I stopped dealing with the BS. I was more honest. I was more connected. It was less about being out and on the scene and more about like deep relationships and deep connection. I was creating intentional friendships. I was more meaningful about my time. I just really was looking for depth and connection. This is both like romantic and friendships. Like, I just stopped doing things. And so I saw these two things like really, they did like a 180 real quick. And again, I don't know if that was just like a quick maturity thing. I think I just saw myself differently. Like, I I knew that I couldn't do what I had been doing, right? And so I had no choice but to reinvent myself, because otherwise I truly would decline. Oh my gosh, I don't know, I would be dead from dumb choices. Can you die of dumb choices? That's what it felt like I would be. Um I think it's easy to feel like at this stage of life that you can be stagnant. Um Even knowing that you're feeling stuck or unhappy. I think it's normal for women about this age to feel a little bit stuck between who you know yourself to be and like this tug that you're feeling for something else. And stagnation and feeling stuck usually feels very scary. Um, but what I truly believe is that sense of stuckness is the most beautiful place that you can ever be, because it's information that's telling you that you're about to make a move, you're about to do something. And the part of you that doesn't know what that is feels scared and wants to stay over here where it's familiar. Um, but again, there's a soul led part of you that's saying, no, there's more. So, in order to prevent some of that stuckness and stagnation, I want to encourage you to continue to develop really deep connections, not just with people who are familiar, that have been in your life for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, but people who are doing things that you really admire. Um, People that are doing things beyond what you thought would ever be possible. Um, Friends that are going to push you and call you out, not friends that are, again, just checking the boxes and happy that they're there. Those are great friendships. But again, we have an opportunity at this stage of our life to really create things, that most would never see possible. I almost feel like, as I'm saying that, like I'm picturing my, 20-year-old niece who's like already traveled around the world, and she's hosting these sailing retreats, and she has lived the most beautiful life the last 5 years, with my family, and now individually on her own, traveling. And like her her generation is not afraid to do anything. And I feel like where we're at as millennials, we got a lot of fear instilled into us from our parents' generation. But because we lived the beginning life of that, we started to see these other generations doing things in these very new and ambitious ways. And I, personally, for me, I feel like that also like gave me a drive to be like, well, surely I can do those things. Surely I could, expand what I thought was possible. Surely I could do what goes beyond what I was told. And it's true. It's so true. I mean, I've had to reinvent myself so many times in the last 10 years. And I think that that's because I never hid behind the labels that I was given, or that I earned, or that I, chose to have. And a lot of women somehow, like, they become badges of honor, but also walls that block you from taking any other potential risks or walking into rooms that you may not think you belong in. So I really encourage you to put yourself in front of other women in rooms that you may not even fit into, because they're the ones that are going to help you think outside the box. Staying in environments that stretch you in that way, I'm so grateful for those rooms. I am so grateful for those rooms. I have, used 4 things to keep me from staying in a place of like stuckness where it's like, I don't think I can do this, or nothing's going to change, or nothing's possible. And I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll continue to mention these, but it's having a morning routine where I'm journaling and I'm spending time in my thoughts, spending time with God in prayer and in scripture, spending quality quiet time with myself, just enjoying me, not like doing something to do it, but just being with myself, and really looking at like who I am becoming and being curious about her. I'm recognizing, like, my husband this morning, we took the kids to go play at Dave and Buster's. Like, I don't even like Dave and Buster's. That place is so overstimulating. On the way there, we're listening to this um, song. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Oh, The Muffin Man. Yeah, do you know the Muffin Man? Well, it's a trap song with the Muffin Man song on it. And we're both in there like, do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man. He looks at me and was like, did you ever think you'd be singing the Muffin Man? I said, no, I did not. I did not. I never envisioned myself singing the Muffin Man. But I'm watching myself evolve into this really beautiful like leader as a woman to my bonus daughter, and to my bonus son. And it's softening me. Like this identity is softening me, and I need to be soft, I believe, in order to lead the way that God wants me to lead in this new season of my 40s. Because I can be harsh. I can. And the softness is important. It's important for how I talk. It's important for how I lead. It's important for how I allow others to feel seen. Um, and it changes the atmosphere in a room. So yeah, you've got to make sure that you're doing things to continue to learn about who you're becoming. The other thing is that you've got to be intentional about your growth. An example of this is me doing these videos, right? I have committed to 100 daily videos. So I'm on day 18. My God, 100 feels so far away. But what am I learning about myself in this? I'm learning about my time management. I'm learning about how much I actually have to say. For so long, I have said I have nothing to say. Like right now, it feels like I have a lot to say, but let's wait until we get to like number 50 and like praise God that He helps me come up with ideas. But I'm noticing where my mind makes excuses for things and tries to derail me, for the sake of, like rest or not doing things. And I'm noticing what stuff is lighting me up. I'm noticing what parts of my story, um, I believe feel really good to tell. And I'm noticing where shame still exists in my life. And so it's really cool because like growth at this age has become so intentional. And I believe that when you're reinventing yourself at 40, you have to be intentional because again, you only have this next half of your life. So don't go out and just willy-nilly. Like start putting yourself into situations with an intentional mindset that will say, maybe this will open me up and help me to expand my creativity. Maybe this will open a door and I'll meet somebody that has a business idea similar to mine that we could do together because I've always wanted a business partner. Maybe going to this space is going to help me look at myself and think, wow, if she can dress like that, then the sky's the limit for me. Like, this is where you've got to be super intentional about why you're doing what you're doing, but that you are doing something in order to get closer to whatever it is you're feeling called to do. I'm very inspired by one of my dearest friends, Allison. She owns a hair salon. She is a super talented, very well known, hairstylist in the industry, and she's burnt out and she's done, and she has been very playful and risk taking in doing some other things to see how they land, not only because she's passionate about it, but because she believes that what she's doing is good. And I'm seeing her now start to be forced into stepping out of this 20 plus year career that she's had because these other things she's truly meant to be doing, she's finished her season, right? She has watched every episode. Sometimes we watch these episodes on Netflix. I mean, Emily in Paris, I love it. This last season, I could have been happy at the ending of the last one. But, when you start to force seasons to continue, things start to feel a little bit forced. Things aren't as enjoyable. The energy and the mood towards it has shifted. So, this is where I'm seeing her season of life start to slow down. But this new season is already opening up. And I cannot wait to see where it goes for her. And it's like, seriously, it's inspiring me because I know that now I can do anything as I'm feeling a season of my life starting to come to an end. Um, Find a place, and this is going to be important, find a place for you to have support. And I'm not talking about just friends, but you do need a coach or a mentor or a spiritual mentor or a pastor or like someone way older than you that's further along in their career, therapist. Like you need somebody because we come with a lot of baggage based on our experiences. We come with a lot of fears based on like just the idea of both society but personally around like taking risks and taking steps at this age and what the repercussions of that might be. And so having somebody in your corner that can challenge your way of thinking and challenge your belief systems to again help you expand is going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. um what I believe is wisdom doesn't naturally mean that you're evolving or that you stop evolving, excuse me. Wisdom does not mean that you naturally stop evolving. I think that it means that we evolve in a smarter way, right? Like more we're more on track of our time. We're more respectful of our energy and where we put it. So as you reinvent yourself in your 40s, you're actually like evolving smarter. We wasted a lot of time in our 20s and 30s evolving in the most like our lines like this, right? But I feel like when we reinvent ourselves in our 40s, like it's almost like we're doing this. it might be moving slow, and the hill might be, maybe for you it's slowly going up, and maybe for some of you it's going like this, but we don't do this anymore because, girl, we do not have the energy, the patience, or the time. I know I don't. So so when I was writing this out and just kind of looking at my notes of what I wanted to talk about, I recognized there was something that I knew I was never going to lose again at this point. When I was reinventing myself in my later 20s, when I was reinventing myself in my 30s, I still lost this in everything. And I knew that it was something that I've as I've watched, right? I'm 43, so I'm 3 years into my 40s, and it has not changed. Which is, when I got my self worth back, gone are the days that that ever goes anywhere. And all it does is get bigger and bigger, right? So I don't compare my values to anyone. I won't give up my needs, shrink, stay quiet, perform, people please, or perfect in order to get anything from anyone else. I do not question who I am in any room. And I believe that's because I have lived so much of my life in these challenges and these terrible experiences and all of this loss and shame and guilt and all this other stuff, that like I can't give it away. I gave it away enough already. So the next 40, I'm carrying it with me wherever I go. So I thought that was an important thing to bring up, because I want you to look at, like, what are you no longer going to leave behind in this next stage of reinventing yourself, because that's going to be really important for you to use as kind of like a checks and balances of like where you're at and what decisions you're making and how those decisions are impacting you. um the last piece that I wanted to talk about is the difference between what I'm building now versus what I was building in my 30s. And, in my 30s, was I just was not thinking about sustainability or like long-term security. I wasn't thinking about legacy or anything authentic. I was thinking about making a lot of money. I was thinking about being super popular. I was thinking about proving everybody that I, like, could make it on my own after this divorce. Was I was being a bozo. I was just being a bozo. I love 30, 30 to 38-year-old Brianna, but she's a dingling and did a lot of ding dong stuff. Now I'm not hiding, I'm not performing, I'm not perfecting. And it just feels like, even though, again, like, I'm sharing with you all of this, knowing I'm not where I want to be. I know that there's something that I'm going to be doing. I know that there's a bigger stage for me, whatever that is, whatever God intends me to do. And that's all I'm trusting right now. But I'm going to be the most authentic and clear in who I am every step of the way. So, yeah, so that's it. I want to leave you with a reminder that, like, your big ideas matter. They're important. They need to be shared. Um, your future is not dim because you're 40. Your future is not dim because you're in your 40s and divorced. Your future is not dim because you're 40s and single with no children. Your future is not dim if you don't like your career at 40 and you have no idea what's happening next. Your future is not dim, period. And I want to encourage you that reinvention does not have to be scary, and that the alignment that it's forcing you into is just uncomfortable. And there's a little bit of uncertainty, but uncertainty is some of the best breeding ground for amazing ideas, amazing possibilities, and amazing rooms for you to walk into. So I know that we always have a choice. And for you, the choice is, you either shrink back into what's familiar or you expand. And I know that I am choosing to expand in this time of my life. So thank you guys for listening. See you next time.